Hey, Alina, nice to meet you again, and thank you very much for joining this conversation today as we planned. Since we have a lot of topics in common to discuss and outline, and posted for people to hear some similar pain points that we're gonna touch base, and I think that would be really interesting, and probably there are gonna be some insights for people, for our clients, potential clients, for people to know.
Hi, Tom. Thank you very much for inviting me and for having me here today. It's really a pleasure to be together. And yes, definitely, I agree. Since we already work for quite some time together, we can see some mutual guidelines that our customers face, that our partners as well face. So, yeah.
All right, perfect. I think we have a good agenda for today, and I think we can get started. Anyway, um, so I want to start with quite simple things that we have in common. It's regarding the future trends in software development outsourcing, about the AI automation, nearshoring, and how basically what's going on in this world of outsourcing. Um, yeah, what you think on that?
That's a very good question, actually, because every year, as a society, we do have lots of talks with our partners at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year. We try to find out what strategies worked well for them, what did not, what are their plans for the upcoming year, and so on. So, to wrap up the year, the previous year, I mean, it was very interesting to see, of course, how AI is booming, but it's also visible that sometimes companies are just using that AI as a word to go together with a trend, not necessarily that they are implementing everything with AI or they just declare that they do something with AI. However, we saw several more interesting trends. To be more specific, we saw a slight decrease in requests for mobile development because somehow it appeared so that more and more companies are trying to use white label solutions and maybe craft something with something which is already accessible on the market. So for them, it's always good, to launch something really cheap, really fast, so that companies could test how is it working, can they acquire some part of the market, or it's not really something for them. But the big players who are enterprises having, like, I don't know, electricity, let's say, like electricity provider, right? So it's inevitable for them to have a mobile app as part of their customer service support, as part of their customer service journey. So often these companies still are making some improvements or creating new solutions if they did not have that before. It just became a must because users are usually on their mobile phones and it's fast, convenient, and so on. Another trend, what we saw in the market, is low code and no code solutions. So, this is also something that is very attractive, especially for someone who is creating MVP. And it can be done relatively fast, relatively cheap. You can test the market and you can easily upscale or downscale if that's necessary. Another very interesting direction, what we saw is modernizing legacy code, because we even do
Hmm.
have some partners who are currently working specifically in that direction, and it actually brings a lot of stability to them, because large enterprises are actually struggling to find developers working with these legacy technologies, and it's also difficult to maintain the code itself. So there are more and more companies that decided to proceed with that direction and specify on modernizing legacy code, including AI solutions, integrations, and so on. And regarding the AI itself, we did also had lots of talks with market players, and we distinguished two directions. Some are just, exploring AI. They did not tame that yet, even though they know that theoretically they can do some things that would make their routine tasks more efficient, more sleek, and so on. It's somehow they are still carefully observing that from aside. And the other part of companies are already actively using AI for quite some time. So their bottleneck, I would say, is human resources. Basically, they sometimes lack more specialists who could have really good expertise and who could help with mature insights.
I totally agree with you. And you touch base three very important things. I mean, three different aspects. One of them, I totally agree with you regarding the mobile applications, because definitely in nowadays, the world is changing so fast, and the people accessing applications, they're using their mobile phones or tablets instead of using web application in general. I mean, even in financial world, it's much easier,
Yes.
to have a mobile application. And definitely what we usually suggest to our clients is to start with the mobile approach first, because that would basically, they would have an opportunity to test the market, hear the users, hear the feedback, and to make adjustments into their strategy or business
Yeah.
flow. So definitely I agree with you. And we also receiving quite a lot of requests on the mobile development, and our strategy for the startups or mid-sized businesses to either already, if they don't have a mobile application, to definitely create it, or to start with the mobile approach first, because web application can be easily developed afterward using the same code base. So basically that saves clients budgeting, and that could go to investors, or if they are self-funded, that would make them much easier in life afterward. And regarding the AI thing, I believe that it's also it's trend, and it's booming, it's hype in every industry, because basically we are going to the world where everything should be automated, save resources, save time, and a lot of the things can be done by AI. And nowadays, regular jobs sometimes are being already not that important or necessary, because AI can do, in not only in the IT world, but in the
But in
IT.
general, automation as such overtook a lot of duty tasks.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I suppose you also, when you're dealing with your partners and with your clients, you having like statistic on what kind of requests you receive. So definitely, that's, we're on the same page, I think, here. Good.
I think so. I think so.
Okay. Now we can breathe. I think anyway, it's gonna be edited. Then we can go to the first. So I'll go with the first block first. Maybe we would need not a 1 hour, but maybe another session. We'll see.
Sure.
Um, okay. In regards to this topic, Alina, what you think? Will the AI replace engineers in software outsourcing?
I wouldn't believe that it will 100 replace all the routine tasks and engineers, because it's probably just like with any other profession, just with any other area. It will become a tool that facilitates the daily tasks, and if you are able to use that, then you can do more in less time, and you can get rid of these annoying manual tasks that are repetitive, that don't really create a lot of value but are inevitable part of your working process. So I would say it's just like, industry revolution. At some point you become more efficient, you can do faster the things that you would otherwise do in, let's say, I don't know, 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 weeks, you name that. So it will be a tool, but it will maybe replace people, not developers specifically, who are doing only these routine, these manual tasks in a heavy, difficult way. And it would also allow them to requalify and make some improvements in their careers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. But what's inevitable is that anyway, engineers are using ChatGPT or DeepSeek AI or any other tools for the coding in general, and that's really, speeding up the process of the development itself. And I agree with you that it cannot replace completely, but in terms of couple of years, I think AI could do some, simple tasks without any engineers, just to give them a nice prompt or a nice response. And definitely, it's gonna be very powerful tool help the engineering teams to accomplish their tasks. But what's really important that already in financial world, in a wealth stack world, people are using trying to build a tool that would basically do, again, automation, report generation, or any analysis that usually developers did a couple years ago, or any data analyst, or any related people. I think anyway, it's something that we cannot avoid in the future, but anywhere has to be a person on top of AI that basically control of and monitor of what's going on. That's
I
my
agree to
opinion.
you. I agree to you. Actually, among our partners, we also have a couple of schools that help to qualify people into QAs, into developers, and similar IT roles. So, of course, just like you mentioned, ChatGPT, DeepSeek are used in really vast scope to automate some tasks. But again, that's the beauty of being creative. You have to write really good prompts to be able to get more, to be able to go deeper, and so on. So yes, I agree that in general, I think coding for developers it's a little bit easier these days than if we compare that to coding that was done, I don't know, using C++ or Perl language at the very beginning. Because we were discussing that the matter with one of my friends who is a software developer, and he also mentioned me that actually, it's funny because the amount of these simplistic actions that you had to know roughly 10, 15 years ago, and the amount of the simplistic basics that you need to know now, it's like completely different because you don't need to do, even without AI, so many manual tasks, so many. I'm trying to avoid the word thinking, but maybe. You just have to be more creative in finding ways without focusing too much on these super simple formulas or something like that because it facilitates the journey, but again you just have to focus on a very good prompt engineering then.
Yeah, and I believe that people should learn how to work with AI tools, because if you do not know how to ask the right questions, you will not get the right response. I believe that nowadays people have to learn as a subject at the university how to deal with AI tools, because it's really important how you formulate the question and what's the context you put inside of your prompts. So, and based on that, on your skills and how you do that, the quality of response would be the same as your prompt. So I know some engineers that having troubles with that, and I don't really think that AI tool can definitely replace them. But who knows how to use them, definitely make a lot of benefit from that, from it.
Actually, prompt engineering is a very interesting topic because we at ESIT also took for ourselves prompt engineering course, and we discovered the beauty of prompt engineering, like how much you can actually do with AI if you ask the right questions. Because if you are just, giving some prompt without any context, you will get to some extent limited answer. But if you ask the same ChatGPT, let's say, answer in some specific predefined tone with some specific emotion on behalf of, let's say, sales or marketing or AI, no, not AI, sorry, IT expertise. So naturally, the more context you give, the more accurate answer you get, the more sophisticated answer you can get, the more comparison you can get. So it's a real science, and I believe that people who are studying in any basically role in university these days, they are using these tools. But again, then where is the limit between cheating and understanding how to use information and to create something? So again, this is a blurry line because of course there are also tools that are checking if sorry, if the answer was created using AI or it was written by a human. But sometimes, even if you are using some simplistic tools and the AI prompt was very good, these tools do not recognize that it was written by AI.
Yeah. And moving forward to this topic, in your opinion, will the AI reduce the development costs or create a new pricing models for the clients? Whether clients would be expecting is as a must-have in the development, in outsourcing, I mean, or that would be on the choice of software development vendor like ElifTech, uh, on the approach, how what would be the best way to develop any sort of application?
That's a very good question, actually, but I believe each case might be slightly individual as it depends on the customer because some customers are very technical, some are not that much technical. And for these people who are not that much technical, they somehow prefer to have that human communication and not go to some only automated solution. So I would say it's best, to discover with each customer. But of course, over the years, probably more people are getting trained to using AI. More people are, learning how to write the right prompts and so on. So it will definitely be easier for agencies, for companies like ElifTech to, automate some tasks. But I believe the human bond will still remain important as let's take ESIT's example. When I'm talking with partners, sometimes they are complaining that they are exploring different platforms, and at the end of the day, they discover that they are simply being dropped from one frequently asked questions section to another one, and eventually they are just getting lost without the answer they were expecting for. So again, something made by human will be like a new green, new eco direction, as we laugh in the team internally.
Yeah, definitely. And what about the request? How often do you request nowadays the question about AI engineers? Because we discussed in general about the market situation and global trend, but what's going on with the talents?
Actually, we are getting more and more requests for different types of AI, either it's NLP or chatbot or any other automation that basically facilitates the development. And we really see the increasing demand of roles like AI engineers and data scientists accordingly along with that. And all the roles that somehow are related to big amounts of data that is essential for training AI.
Yeah, and I asked this question because I know that a lot of European and American companies are looking for such data scientists, prompt engineering teams, cloud engineering, data processing engineers, etc., etc. And it's always the question of the budgeting because usually those people cost over than $200 per hour, and as everybody know that Eastern European market and European market is a little bit cheaper, and the quality sometimes is much higher, and there is always a gap where basically good company, big enterprises looking for the engineers, and they cannot find it a real good experts. I mean, and but there is a gap where people they don't know about existing such companies like a society, like ElifTech as a vendor, which is not really huge, but still we got a lot of engineers that like very expert at. And in your opinion, how the situation, how to improve the situation, let's say, to work with the global talents, let's say from Lithuania or Ukraine or Poland, Germany, with the global UK and US companies.
I would say it's, of course, first of all, tightly related to brand visibility and brand awareness. Because if you are already familiar with the brand, it's easier. But first of all, it's the one part of the situation is tightly related to marketing. The better marketing you have, the more companies know about you, the easier it is to discover you. The second source is also pretty classics, I would say. It's recommendations because, for instance, with society, I probably assume it's the same with ElifTech because you have a very skilled and experienced team. Because many of our leads, many of our partners come to eSite exactly because of the recommendation. So it's always good to invest into the close-knit relationship with your partners, with your network, and everyone, including, even the people from whom you would expect least of the outcome in that case, because you can never know who can recommend you. In our case, quite often, when there is a migration of people between companies, I mean, the person, let's say, was working in company A and migrated to the company B, since they had a very good experience with us, they are trying, to establish a new partnership on behalf of that new company. So I assume the same might be done with ElifTech, because if your, let's say, customers, someone of your customers' representatives are, for instance, changing their workplace, you can also to keep the nurture that connection and try, to expand and still remain in touch. And you can never know who of their friends might need something, so that he can recommend. Because otherwise, it's either marketing or brand awareness or connections or networking. So it's pretty classic, the same ways, time tested ways, I would say.
I totally agree with you, and of course, at ElifTech, we do that. We have our journey, but I think it's always the question of not about the marketing or brand awareness or recommendation. I think it's more about compliances and regulations in different industries. For example, big financial companies would never work with the mid-sized vendor from Ukraine or Lithuania unless you pass the audition stages, and you completely aligned with their regulations and compliances. But there is a situation where, even though it can be a recommendation or referring or anything like that, and where big companies that having millions of budgets cannot find real good engineers, and they just don't know that those market exist and they could hire remotely, and that basically this person will close their needs completely, and surely cheaper than hiring in-house in the United States or in Nordics or in anywhere in Europe. So that's kind of a situation I want to touch base. How does it go on your side? How often do you receiving those requests for the remote scaling, for the remote engineers? And because it's always the question how basically to find the right candidate, not for the $1 million, and making sure that our business would work.
Yes, that's a very good insight, Tom. And I think that you touch based a very good market, fintech. Let's take it as an example, because from ESIT's experience, quite often we do have requests from financial banking companies looking for some specific resources. And indeed, most of the time they have some specific requirements, like geographical preference, or I don't know, something else like ISO certificates of the company, or personal skills, certified skills of some not employees, contractors that they're planning to hire for one or another task. But I would say between the US and Europe, there is one slight difference, not even slight, I would say quite a significant difference, because Europe has GDPR regulations. And recently, Europe also launched the NIS2 directive, which is related directly to
Yeah.
cybersecurity requirements. So, of course, for European companies, it's very important that anyone who starts collaborating with them would be compliant to these requirements, while US don't have that strict regulation on their side. So for them, it's very good to have European resources, basically for two reasons. First of all, it's security and all that GDPR and all that compliance to these regulations that we are used to. So we are naturally providing our services with the same approach. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing, it is also the pricing, because while US still has way higher pricing than Europe, I mean, it of course it depends on the region in Europe as well, because if we compare Scandinavian regions and well, maybe I don't know, countries like Spain, for example, or Portugal, the rates would be very different here. But again, if you have to compare that with the US rates, these are even bigger ones, because if let's say rates in Scandinavian region or Germany usually vary from, I will just mention any rate to exemplify, for instance, let's say from 50 to 100. So in US, it starts from 130 and easily goes up depending on the seniority, on the skills, on some specific certificates, and so on. So to summarize that, yeah, indeed, actually, there are differences, but I believe that despite the time zones, for Americans, it's very good to have someone from Europe. It's very convenient.
Yeah, especially when the US clients working globally and they have clients in the Europe, basically, and having the team that would be able to support according to the European hours, that definitely a benefit from them, surely. Uh, yeah, and from that kind of a statement, there is another question coming up: is you having a lot of big pool of clients, partners, businesses, and you are receiving quite often different type of requests for the outsourcing or just for the resources. And the question comes from us, from ElifTech as a vendor: what are the biggest challenges companies facing when they are planning to scale remotely, or if they're looking for the vendor or for the team to be able onboarded inside of their company?
So first of all, it's credibility, and can you trust the partner, or does the partner only look good on paper? Because of course, each company is doing analysis, and they're trying, to validate the potential partner by assessing the pricing, by assessing portfolio examples, recommendations from other customers, and so on. But it takes lots of time. It takes lots of time, and still, given our experience at eSociety, sometimes we see and we already know that there are companies that pitch very good, but they struggle with delivery. There are vice versa companies that we know can deliver really good, but they struggle
Hmm.
with pitch. And here we come as a middleman, to help them pitch and deliver, because we are constantly communicating with both sides. So with customers, we discuss about like how is communication with a chosen provider? Is everything smooth? Can they find their services as good ones? Is there anything lacking? Is there anything that can be improved? And also, we do the same thing with our partners by double checking, like, is the customer sharing the information, which is crucial for delivering services? Is the communication respectful? Is it smooth? Is everything okay? And if there are any potential red flags, we just step in between, we moderate that communication and put everything back on track. But yeah, I would say there are several things. One of them is pitching. Another one is deliverability. And it's also important to mention that for clients, it's pretty difficult to find that out only after the first glance.
Yeah, I totally on your side, and having the middleman who would be able to help company vendor either to pitch or help with the delivery or get it requirements in the right way. Because anyway, you are dealing with clients more than potential vendor or the winning vendor do that on the first stages. And I know that a lot of companies that are looking for the vendor, they prefer going to you instead of looking someone on the market. Again, I think that's because of trust, credibility, and a reputation. But I think one of the biggest um, anxiety they have is to how the external software development vendor would help them to scale if they're working remotely. They always not always, but quite often prefer to pay three times more hiring the in-house team rather than just to scale up and saving the resources and the budget for the marketing or for the sales
Yeah.
or for other activities. and it's quite hard as a ElifTech, for example, to convince them that it would work. You as a middleman, I believe, you have much more chances to convince them that that would work. What you think on that situation in general?
Yes, the example that you mentioned is like absolutely classic example, and many companies, especially those who never worked with, sorry, especially those who never worked with external agency before, have concerns related to security, to communication, to certainty or uncertainty whether this company will be able to deliver results. So first of all, what we do, we explain how things are happening, like step by step, what should they expect, how should they plan their workload, and so on. In the past, there have been even examples on behalf of society when we provided some certain workshops to our clients, what homework they should do in order to start working with an external partner. Because sometimes when especially it is related to the project security, you don't want to let third party analyze their code, their internals, some specifics and so on. So we help them to also understand that, okay, maybe you don't want to give away the entire project for outsourcing, but maybe you can start with a test case with a part of your project, and in order to be able to start working with that external vendor, you should do this and that homework, so that they would first of all understand what is your goal, where you want to be, what you want to achieve, and so on. So first of all, psychological preparation of the team is important. The idea here is to help them understand that a really good partner acts exactly the way like their internal team. They are on the same page, they play in the same team, as I say, and their goals are the same. So this is first and very important thing to understand. Second thing that is quite often concern about costs, that there is a belief that, for instance, maybe outsourcing will cost me more. It's not always a fact, because if you don't have a person with some specific skills internally, you are obliged to look for that person on the market. Of course, you first of all trying to hire that person internally, but then you bump into the reality that it's not that easy to find the best matching colleague, and your product is getting to some certain deadline, and you still struggle for while still looking for that person, and the product already had to be launched to the market with update 1 week ago, 1 month ago, etc. So at that point, it just becomes inevitable, to have someone here and now to help them immediately. And what I say here, it's worth paying for skills and for expertise, for understanding. You can start, with some small assignments again, and you can scale that up once you see that the partner is really trustworthy, that you are on the same page, and that you're getting the results that you were expecting for. In terms of the budget, sometimes it's worth to invest, because looking for the person is the same, at least the same cost. Because companies always think only about the salary, but there is also time for searching that person. There is also a job ads cost. There is also interviewing costs. There are lots of related costs that companies somehow forget about. And at the end of the day, if you make the math, you have exactly the same amount and even more. But you just don't realize that, because it's kind of the habit. It's convenient to have someone nearby. What I always suggest for vendors, for our partners, if that's possible, do onboarding together live in the same spot. If you can travel for 1 week to the customer to have an onboarding, get to know the team, meet them face to face, this also creates much more trust than it would be just an online call. This is always a very good practice. If you can go at least once per half year to the customer, to do some planning together, eventually even to have a team building, because that might sound a little bit relevant, but in practice that works really perfectly. I know companies who had been doing team buildings together with their external vendors. And at the end of the day, the work was super smooth because these people felt like part of the internal team. No one even was thinking like we and they, it was like the same team with the same goal.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And you touch a lot of different things in my question, and I think that should be another conversation about the processes and how to approach vendor and a client, how to establish the relationship, and what kind of engagement should be, what kind of a expectation should be set up, what kind of a journey the client should go with the vendor, what to expect from the vendor and what we expect from the client, because it's always a dark place where nobody wants to go. Everybody has their own processes and the clients should be aware of what to expect, communicating with specific vendor. So definitely that's a huge topic to discuss maybe next time in terms of how to approach it and what could be the benefit for both sides. And I'm pretty sure that would be interesting for people. It always would be great to know insights from the software development vendor and from the you as a company who always on the side of in like a bridge connecting the
Yeah. Oh,
businesses
that's a
and the
huge topic.
vendors.
That's a huge topic indeed. There are always lots of angles and very interesting points to discuss because being on the market for quite some time, I really saw good examples, poor examples, and you always want to have only these good examples, and that's why I'm also doing a lot of mentoring for our partners, like avoid that, do more of this, do more of that. So that's a huge topic indeed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Lina, and in general, we touch base a lot of things like AI, mobile development, outsourcing, outstaffing. Not very deep, but still a lot of topics to think about for
Oh,
your.
if we would dive deeper, that would be a 5 hours conversation, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So definitely we have to make another conversation and cover just the one topic. I think that would be also interesting to speak about. Thank you very much for joining today with me, having this conversation. Everybody who's going to watch this, please put your comments below what you think and that. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments and let's discuss it.
Thank you very much for having me here, and I hope your audience gets additional ideas or at least one other idea on what they can do different, and come up with some, further strategies.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much. Wish you a good rest of the day.
Thank you, you too.